Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to call the meeting to order. Want to start by saying that we ask that everyone, you have an opportunity to speak. If you choose to give a public comment, you have three minutes to speak. At the conclusion of your time, you will hear this noise, so you'll know that your time is up. That's the noise. I don't know if you can hear that. I don't think you can hear it. You can hear that. All right, so that'll be the noise that you'll hear whenever your time is up. So at that time, we'd ask that you stop speaking so that everyone will have an opportunity to speak. Additionally, we want everyone to treat each other with the same respect that you would like to have or you would expect in return. So when other people are speaking, we ask that you not speak over them or not yell from the audience, so everyone can be heard and given the opportunity to speak. With that being said, if you are unable to follow those rules, then obviously we'll have to ask you to leave the meeting. So with that being said, Judge Lazara.
It's the roll call. I'm present. Sorry. At least in body. I'm not sure about mind yet.
Present. County Controller Corey O'Connor is present. Rich Fitzgerald.
Steve Polarski.
Sheriff Krause.
Present.
Gail Moss.
Present.
President County Council Pat Katina.
Councilmember Bethany Hallam.
It's also been brought to my attention that Terry Klein's father is ill and he's in the hospital, so I'd ask that you keep her as well as her father in your prayers and your thoughts.
Point of order, Judge Halsey. Yeah, I want to object to Mr. Polarski participating in lieu of County Executive Fitzgerald. The state statute is very clear that the county executive does not get a designee on this board, so I want that objection officially noted, please.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that being said, we'll now have the Community Corrections Report. Passages to recovery.
Good afternoon, everybody. Kevin Cordsey with Passages to Recovery. At this point, over the past month of February, we had 8 admissions. Currently, we have 18 men in the program, 9 women in the program. In residential, in transitional living, we have 7 men and 1 woman. Over the past month, we've had 1 client move from residential to TLF with transitional living. We've had 6 people successfully complete the program. 4 left against facility advice, 5 escaped, 1 revoked, 1 was released from the program by court, 1 was detained by court. Over the past month, we've also finalized plans and procedures to be able to start bringing in clients from the Allegheny County Jail Alternative Housing that are on methadone. And as of yesterday, we had 4 clients admitted to the program that are receiving methadone, and we're taking over to DISO for their dosing over there. Community-based supports passes are continuing. Family-based visits are also continuing.
I have one. Yeah, what are the various MOUD services that you're offering? Is it just methadone, did you say?
No, we do Suboxone, Sublocade, Vivitrol, methadone.
Okay, and it all depends on like what they came in on?
Right.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, I think the only thing at this point is that we wouldn't be able to do methadone from someone from the community, simply because the relationship with TDISO is that they're considered guest dosing there. So it's just a much simpler, kind of less complicated process because they don't have to receive services from TDISO other than dosing while they're there.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay.
Judge was there? No additional questions? Great job. Thank you very much.
All right.
You mentioned something about leaving against advice versus escape, and I'm just wondering how you differentiate between the two of those things?
If someone is there serving a sentence and they leave, that's an escape. If they're not serving a sentence, might be on a detainer or a self-referred client, then that would be against facility advice.
And do they receive any sort of punishment if they leave against advice versus leaving as an escape?
It depends. If they're there on a detainer or there might be court order to complete a program, there might be a warrant issued for their arrest, but it's not necessarily a new charge like an escape.
An escape charge. All right, thank you very much.
The Renewal Center.
Good afternoon, everybody. Adam Zach reporting for the Renewal Center. So starting off, our program numbers for the past month, currently we have 81 males in our work release program, 10 females for a total of 91 in work release. For our inpatient drug and alcohol program, 18 males, 3 females for a total of 21. In the past month, we had 1 staff who tested positive for COVID and 2 reentrants positive for COVID. Currently, we have no positive cases, no one in quarantine. Employment percentage is currently 61%. That is for individuals who are here over 30 days and don't have any disability and who are not in inpatient treatment. In the upcoming months, we're trying to reestablish our community service partnerships and introduce our clients to available services and community resources by weekly presentations. We're partnering with Mount Arad Baptist Church once a month for their monthly food baking distribution, and Project Destiny, which is a clothing distribution center on the north side, and we're going there twice a month. Finally, on February 22nd, at our Boulevard of the Allies location, we had Reverend Rod Tate from the Pennsylvania Interfaith Impact Network and Miss Terry Spencer. They gave a presentation to our men about the Colorful Backgrounds Expo program for ex-incarcerated individuals. This program is going to be starting up next week in the Swissvale location, and the program workshops include job readiness, basic computer skills, financial literacy, leadership skills, mental health, anger management, self-care, community organizing, and an expungement clinic. We had a lot of interest from our guys participating in this program, and Ms. Spencer and Reverend Tate, they are invited to come back and give presentations when more men and women come over to our program. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll now hear from electronic monitoring.
Good afternoon, Board. Steve Eswine for the Probation Office. Really nothing outside of our report that new to bring up. Just Judge Lazare, we only have 1 person on the sober link, so feel free to sentence anybody else to that or put anybody else on that. Just some highlights. We're about 650 individuals on the bracelet, so our numbers are back up to normal, and 67 had completed successfully. So that's all.
Is that pre-trial?
Pre-trial, there's 97.
97 pre-trial.
Yeah.
And the balance would be, have been sentenced to electronic home monitoring?
Yes, yes.
So you find that most of those people are there as a result of DUIs, or?
A majority of them are DUIs, yes. Probably 70%.
70% DUI?
Break it down, yeah.
All right. Any other questions? Ms. Hallam?
Yeah, so the numbers were lower before, right? That's an increase. So have you identified why that is?
Just what comes through. I mean, it just, end of the year is always a little bit down. And, New Year things, court kicks back up, more people get sentenced.
Okay.
So-
It happens every year?
Yeah, pretty much,
Okay,
yeah.
cool. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Thank you very much. We will now have the public comments. In order to present a public comment, you will have, you needed to sign it on this sheet, so I'll call the names as they appear on the sheet. First on the list would be Darwin Luba.
Darwin Lurba, DARWIN LEBA, 269 Containing Pike, Pittsburgh, PA 15215.
Thank you.
Today, I want to continue discussing contract enforcement, particularly in regards to the County Controller's Office. I remind everybody on this board that the Summit Food Service contract expires in less than 2 months, so if we want to enforce that contract by withholding payment for contract violations, we're running out of time. Specifically, the Controller is running out of time. But today, I want to talk about the Allegheny Health Network contract, particularly in light of Paula Reed Ward's reporting in Trib Live from February 27th entitled, "Experts in Lawsuits Say Mental Health Care at Allegheny County Jail is, quote, grossly inadequate." That article states, quote, Brickman said during her deposition that there are often no psychiatrists at the jail because positions remain unfilled, Coopers added. Vacancies included 1 for Health Services Administrator, 3 Deputy Health Services Administrators, Director of Mental Health Programs, 5 mental health specialists, 1 psychiatric doctor, 1 psychiatrist, and 1 psychologist. The report showed there was 1 psychiatrist for the facility, end quote. Yet, according to the most recent AHN contract that I could find, these are the requirements for mental health care. Quote, 1.8 full-time equivalent psychiatrists and 0.5 full-time equivalent psychologists. Services included behavioral health care from assessment to treatment, end quote. Now, the per diem rate in this contract for a psychiatrist is $1,300 per diem, and for a psychologist, it's $500 per diem. So the question I have is, are we actively penalizing AHN by these per diem rates when they are not providing care per the contract, and why don't we use that money to hire additional care? The psychiatrist per diem rate at 260 working days in a year would bring in $338,000 each year that AHN does not provide a full-time equivalent psychiatrist. And I understand that there's a staffing audit that's been in the works at the Controller's Office, but we already have all of this information in-house. And if we really cared about the health of incarcerated folks in the jail, we'd start contract enforcement today, while taking the time to look back at historical violations, including not only healthcare capacity noncompliance, but also credentials, given the doctor they provided who had a, quote, significant history of fraud and deception. I urge the Controller to do his job and enforce these contracts today, because every day he doesn't, people aren't getting fed and they aren't getting healthcare, and it's contributing to the human rights violations that we as a county are enabling in our jail every day. I thank you for your time, and I urge the board to respect our incarcerated community members and to provide them with respect, food, and health care. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I forgot to state that when you come up to give your public comment, please state your full name and spell your last name for the record. Next, we'll hear from, I believe this is Rachel Radke.
Oh my God, sorry. Okay, Rachel Radke, R-A-D-K-E.
Thank you.
Okay, I am speaking today as a person in long-term recovery from substance use disorder. I'm a mom raising 3 sons here in Pittsburgh, and I'm a widow whose late husband was a casualty of the war on drugs. I'm here to speak about the necessity of full and open and equitable access to MOUD at the county jail. Okay. In the release dated November 3rd, titled County Jail Expands Methadone Services, Warden Harper sounded proud to announce that the county jail would be working with Tediso to continue methadone treatment for inmates who have a prescription at the time of their incarceration. He stated that we understand that many of the individuals committed to our facility have a history of substance abuse. We are committed to assisting their recovery any way we can. I'm thrilled to hear that, but unfortunately the current policies are not reflecting that. There are major issues in the current policies that are costing human life. According to the same press release, individuals who suffer from OUD but do not have a valid prescription receive medically supervised withdrawal treatment and are offered substance use treatment. This means that rather than being offered MOUD induction, which we now know provides the best possible outcomes for those with substance use disorder, they're forced to detox and receive other types of care. Abstinence-based drug and alcohol treatment is directly linked to higher rates of overdose. According to the health department's report, accidental overdose deaths in Allegheny County from 2016 to 2020, nearly 1 in 5 of the individuals who died of overdose in the county during that time had been in the county jail in the prior 12 months. That's a lot of people. The jail has a unique opportunity to significantly reduce these rates in our county by implementing an effective policy. The CDC, SAMHSA, and Johns Hopkins and many other organizations have all released reports which state that compared to non-pharmacological therapies, people receiving MOUD, which is an evidence-based pharmacological treatment for OUD, remain in treatment longer, have reduced illicit opioid use, and reduced prescription opioid misuse. Sorry. There are stacks upon stacks of studies which have found that offering MOUD in correctional facilities significantly reduces rates of overdose and recidivism and increases lengths of remission. There's an equally large stack of studies which show that simply providing naltrexone or only providing some types of MOUD do not have the same positive effects. It is not an equivalent or sufficient treatment for opioid use disorder. The American Society for Addiction Medicine and the National Commission, damn it, okay, sorry. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you. We'll now hear from Penny McKay.
Can everyone hear me? Okay. My name is Penny. Last name is McCague. M, small c, capital C, A-G-U-E.
Thank you.
I am speaking today to let everyone know that maybe most people don't know. But my aunt and I, Sally Childs, we started an organization called Lydia's Place, which we created the name from the Bible. And that was back in 2006. And I have personally seen that Lydia's Place provided a lot of what the women needed inside the jail, never asking for one positive note of thanks. But I just wanted people to realize that the first thing we must do is start treating people with respect. Everyone needs to be treated with respect. But I am the founder of Lydia's Place. I've also helped Tim Stevens on many projects over the years. Many of you know who I am. My last largest project was the Hillman Cancer Center, which I was able to get developed before Elsie Hillman passed. But I was determined to get a better research facility together. And I'm very proud of the Hillman Cancer Center. But people have to start understanding that you have to start speaking to people with respect, looking people in the eye, saying, hello, how are you? Hello, how are you? I don't think people know how to do that anymore. That's one of the reasons why we're having all of this violence. I've never seen anything like this. I mean, myself and my family, we have done so much for Allegheny County and for Western Pennsylvania over the years, and we've always been happy to do it. But at the same time, we really don't want to be punished because of what we have done. And I'm just here today because I've been extremely disappointed in how certain people have been treated and some of what is still going on at the Allegheny County Jail. And Mr. Warden, you knew you had my support when you initially came. So there's a lot of positive that we can do, but just like I did with the Hillman Cancer Center, we have to start using positive energy instead of all this negative. That has to go. and that's the reason why I'm here today. If any of you have any questions about what does positive energy mean, come talk to me.
Thank you.
People know how to,
Thank you very much for your comments. Thank you.
you do know what positive means.
Thank you.
Okay, let me just pick up my papers.
Now hear from Rick McCaig. No? No? All right. John Kinstowitz.
Yeah, my name's John Kenstowitz, Kenstowicz.
Thank you.
The recent NCCHC suicide prevention report states the following. Staff shortages are a major challenge at the jail. The jail has 148 healthcare positions budgeted. 43% of these positions were vacant as of 9/19/22. That's 67.5 positions. Among the mental health vacant positions were 5 mental health specialists, 3 mental health nurses, and 1 psychiatrist part-time. NCCHC said further, we observed that therapeutic programming on the mental health residential units was limited and saw group activity with only 3 inmates, suggesting most inmates did not have access to group activity. They also said most healthcare interviews are at cell side. Referring the board to the minutes of April 2021 in a public comment, I raised these issues as to whether most healthcare visits were still at cell side, and questioned if there were improvements in availability of therapeutic groups and individual therapy. Judge Clark asked Deputy Warden Williams these questions regarding cell side visits and group therapy. The Deputy Warden assured Judge Clark there was improvement, but she provided an answer, an evasive answer with no specifics. I questioned the authenticity of her answer because the staffing crisis was increasing, and yet she said there were improvements. If one looks at the statements made by NCCHC in 2019 and 2022 in these areas, the statements are almost exactly the same regarding cell site visits, lack of group process, and follow-up care when people leave the mental health unit. A difference is that there were 37 vacancies in 2019, and now there are 67.5 vacancies. Both NCCHC and I very much value the need for people's privacy. Based upon my 26 years working in mental health, I can assure you that many people are not going to disclose thoughts about suicide or hearing voices in the presence of others on a cell block. A critical problem at the jail is the staffing crisis, and residents as a result are more vulnerable to suicide, death, and altercations with the staff. One remedy is for an RFP to be initiated to bring outside nonprofit mental health providers into the jail to facilitate groups, assist with mental health visits to be done in privacy. And can I just finish this paragraph? And follow up for people leaving the mental health unit. Well, I guess that's it.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Have a good day.
Thank you. We'll hear from Ella Scales.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Minister Ella Scales, and I'm the Vice President of the Pennsylvania Interfaith Impact Network. Good to see you today. I stand here today coming off the heels of Black History Month and March being Women's History Month, and I look and I see that history has been made. We have a Black presiding judge. we have another black man serving on the Oversight Board, and we have women serving. And so I stand here today both proud and perplexed of the progress that has been made in the faces that we see serving. And you're serving because the community have elected you. And because we have lifted up our voice and have put our trust in electing you to your positions, not only on the Oversight Board, but also in different capacities that you're serving, you are public servants. And so I'm standing here today again to ask for you, our public servants, to meet with us, the community. We have on every occasion since September to ask for a meeting, just a meeting where we can converse one with another, where we can use the respect that you speak of every time when in your opening. And that's all we want, is to be respected, to hear, so that we together and collectively can make the change that's needed. As the change that has done in the flesh that we see, we can together make change. Now, the word oversight in the jail oversight board, according to Merriam-Webster, is oversight means not only to have watchful and responsible care, but regulatory supervision. Now, oversight can also mean an inadvertent error or failure to do something. Now, it seems as such that we have been majoring on the inadvertent errors and failures and not on the watchful and responsible care given at the jail. So it's a jail oversight. Your oversight is over the jail where there are inadvertent and hopefully not intentional failures and errors. And so with that in mind, we believe we, the community, can be of assistance in helping. Every month, new errors and failures are brought to the attention of this board, and yet the oversight does not seem to be happening. And so we again ask for a meeting with you where we can help be a resolution to the ongoing problems. Thank you for your time. God bless you.
We'll now hear from Lynn Thompson.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lynn Thompson, and it's spelled with L-Y-N-N-E, and my last name is Thompson. I'm here today because we have started an organization. It's called Fighting Back. And what we're going to do is we're going to get together, and we're going to take and help correct some of this wrongness that is being done in this system. And when I say wrongness, I'm talking about detainers that are being placed on people that are off probation, and they're giving them detainers. We're going to try to change this restitution for people that have completed probation, and they're still keeping them in the system because they haven't paid restitution. That's not what the Constitution says. The Constitution says that once you've completed your time, if you owe restitution, then it's okay. It goes to a collection agency. And the county has Credit Management Corporation who's supposed to be collecting for the county. And that's not what's happening. The courts have become a collection agency, and you're not. So Fighting Back is going to come in and do some things and make some changes that needs to happen. And there's a lot of my friends that are sitting there up today that they know that we're about ready to make some change. And I know with the organization and the things that you guys are doing, we want to stand behind you. So we're behind you. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Now hear from Muhammad Ali Nasir.
My name is Muhammad Ali Nasir. I go by Manny. My last name is spelled Nasir.
Thank you.
I've been up here a few times now, and I always talk about the people that I meet outside of the jail. Today, I'm going to invite one of them to take up the rest of my time. But before I do that, I have to remind everybody that the majority of people in the ACJ are not convicted. All right. This man that I'm talking about, his name is Glenn Stevens. He spent 5 years in the ACJ, subject to all of the terrible, deplorable conditions that everybody always talks about before he was acquitted. I had the pleasure of meeting him 2 weeks ago, and I asked him a few questions that I'm going to play now.
Yeah, it's bad in there, bro. Horrible. They treat you like dogs. The food's garbage. Some of the COs are cool. Most of them are assholes. Like, it burn our wreck. Yeah, it's bad in there. Let's just say you disagree with one of them and go to the hole. You can't even, like, state your opinion to none of them because it doesn't work in that place. But, yeah, other than that, I don't recommend this jail at all. I'd rather go upstate. Yeah, definitely rather be upstate. Anything else? You said only let you out for like 15 minutes? Yeah, during the pandemic. Not now. It's full rec now, but that's only been maybe the last year. Okay. Before that, it was 15 minutes either shower. It's supposed to be an hour, 15 minutes to get a shower or clean your cell. Other than that, you were locked in for like 3 years straight. Wow. Yeah. You got no rights in there. None. Yeah, that's fucked up. What about solitary confinement? The hole? That's the dog kennel. Yeah. I mean, the COs up there are decent. I guess they have to because all the people that go up there are like the violent offenders. But other than that, yeah, they'll send you there for anything. You disagree with them, you're in the hole. Like even recently, though? Yeah, even recently. I was just in the hole a month ago. For telling the CO he's an asshole. The reason I asked that is because it was a referendum. I was supposed to stop solitary confinement. No, they ain't stop that. Let's say you don't make it to your door, like they give you 2 minutes to check in. If you don't get to your door in time, you go into the hole. Wow. Or you're locked in for 48 hours. Wow. It's pretty bad up here. It's fucked up, man. I'm glad you're out. 5 years, you said. 5 years. Oh, you was fighting your child out? Yeah, I was fighting it. Damn. Well, during the pandemic, they kept postponing me because the judges didn't want to take hearings or nothing, so. Right. Well, then, yeah, they treat the men in there like dogs. Sorry to hear that. Like I said, I'm glad you're out. Yeah, there's a lot of good men in there. Oh, shit. You're guilty until proven innocent in this place. Yeah, right here, bro. Like, literally walk down this way and tell you how to get there? Yeah, I know where it's at. If you want me to show you where it's at, it's right here. Yeah, I'll show you where it's at. Anything else you want to say? No. This is going to be relating to the warden. Yeah, everybody him, he's the worst person ever, man. I like the warden before him. At least he was decent with the men. This guy, he only gives a shit about himself. Right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We'll now hear from Marion Damick.
Okay. Well, as usual, I've got two things. Well, one is I do hope you're looking at the staff vacancies, and particularly the nurses, which you're really down on. You've been down on them. You budget for 18, and you're missing 12. That means how many nurses you have? 6. For the jail, that's, I don't want to tell you, think, 6 nurses working at the deal of this size, it's unbelievable. And it's, I don't blame them if they can't do the work. Nobody could at that. I wish you really would look at all of these and figure and look at how many you're losing and why. That's the other thing, of course, is my rats. But simply, there's a big article about rats, of all things, in the New York Times. Times of the War on Rats, February 28th, just a couple of days ago. Actually, well, I don't know if you want to tell the people who are looking, who are trying to do work, but there are, we look at it, it's page D5. It will tell you different ways of trying to catch rats, which is different entirely from how to catch mice. Cats can catch mice, cats can't do it on rats. But there are different ways. I'm not going to go into them. I'll do one very quickly. You put out traps without bait in them. The rats are, some people, call a person a rat. Actually, you're calling someone fairly intelligent. They're not stupid. They're used for training. They really aren't stupid. But, okay, you put the out for about a week. They get used to it. No, they're running. Then you put the food. Then you put the food in it that you need for them to catch. Then they might do it. Otherwise, I hate to say, they're more intelligent than some people I know. It's really, that's the way rats behave. If you look up and study rats, well, obviously somebody does. There are people studying rats. And it's important, the way you look at things, or the way. So when there is some news about how to kill rats, I would presume many of you read the New York Times. It's right there for everybody's information. I'd like you to take it on, please. Okay?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll next hear from Jody Lincoln.
Jody Lincoln, JODILINCOLN.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time today. It's recently come to light that Dr. Stess Schultz, the longtime medical director for ACJ, an AHN employee, is no longer employed in that position or working at the jail. The position is currently posted online for hire by AHN. First, I hope the Jail Oversight Board was aware of this significant staffing change. The medical care, if we can call it that, at the jail is one of the most egregious human rights violations that occurs inside those walls. So it's imperative that this board is closely monitoring the staffing crisis in the medical department. The February Warden's report noted that out of 162 medical positions, 94 were vacant. How is that acceptable? Second, I beg the Jail Oversight Board to conduct an interview with the recently departed medical director. You have been asked time and time again to conduct interviews to understand the staffing crisis of the jail, and it appears that this has been done sparingly and on whims in the past. At the end of 2020, Janet Bunce left the Health Services Administrator position after only a couple of months. She spoke publicly to the newspaper about why, describing how staff on the custody side undercut the medical staff, including canceling outside medical appointments and an entire lack of willingness to change policies and procedures that were ineffective at the jail. At the following Jail Oversight Board meeting that year, Deputy Warden Laura Williams attacked Bunce's 26 years of correctional health care experience, saying things are different in ACJ than prison, and defended the jail's medical care system. Most of you were here at that time. I hope you remember it. This departure and the publicity surrounding it led the Jail Oversight Board to commit to doing exit interviews. It's been 2 years, and despite the departure of Williams and the commitment from the job to take the staffing crisis seriously, nothing has changed. People in the jail are dying. People aren't receiving their basic medical care that they need. We hear this month after month at these meetings, in the newspaper, and directly from the people who were harmed by the jail's medical care. Talk to Dr. Stesschult. Take this seriously. You as a board are just as responsible as the jail and AHN for this medical staffing crisis. You've known about this for years now. What do you have to show for it? Thank you.
Next is Beth Shangar.
Beth Schongar, SCHONGAR. Last month I said traumatic practices should not be used routinely. Practices of strip searches, critical response teams, and punitive use of administrative custody need to be researched by the Jail Oversight Board by talking to people in the jail. So now I ask each of you on this board, do you know the use of force policies in the jail? Do you know the rules of engagement for the critical response teams of the jail? Do you know the policies governing strip searches in the jail? Do you know about the cages that are used for time out of cell to technically meet the time out of cell requirement of the referendum? And when you visit the jail, do you talk to people about whether they ever see the critical response teams going through the jail like a SWAT team and what impact seeing them has? Do they ever see or experience strip searches? And are they appropriate and professionally conducted, given that this is a jail? Do you ask who's been in one of those cages? And can you talk to them? Or can you talk to someone who's given up out of cell time because it would mean going in the cages? Bradford Hanson, a retired warden reporting for the lawsuit by the Abolitionist Law Center, concluded that there is a failure to protect there's a failure to protect people being held in the jail. Do you look for this on your visits? The Abolitionist Law Center suit against the jail and the results of the Prison Society survey show that you need to go and find out what is wrong with the policy and what is wrong with the practice.
Thank you. I apologize. I'm not sure if this is Juana or Joanna Saunders. Juana, you're up, ma'am.
Excuse me, Chair. I didn't know that we had to sign in to speak. So is there any way I can speak for?
Sorry, it's too late. I apologize, but it's too late at this point. Sorry.
Hello, my name is Juana Saunders, Saunders. I am the mother of Gerald Lamont Thomas Jr., who passed away in the Allegheny County Jail last year, March 6, 2022. We're coming up on a year anniversary of my son's death. I still have not received any type of answers surrounding my son's death. What I do know is that my son did not receive any type of medical help that he was asking for a week leading up to his death. And what I do understand and what I've heard is that my son dragged his leg around for a whole week asking for assistance and asking for help that he did not receive. And then the day of his dying death, he couldn't even walk. He couldn't even walk to get on a video chat to see his brand new daughter that he just had while he was incarcerated. Upon his return back to his cell, he collapsed. And when he collapsed, he did not receive any type of medical help, assistance, or anything. It was the CO that came and tried to get my son mouth to mouth because you guys don't have any medical assistance there to help. So we don't even know if my son's life would have been spared or not. But what we do know is that he died inside the Allegheny County Jail. And another thing that I want to say here is that I wish that you guys stop lying, saying that people are dying in the hospital when they're not. They're dying inside the jail. They're dying on a cold. They're dying on a cold floor in the jail. And what your COs are trained to do is surround them so no one can see that they're dead and that they're releasing themselves. That's when you're dead. My son was dead on a cold floor. And you can say that he died in Mercy Hospital all you want, but that's inaccurate. I was told by your other inmates that my son was dead, and your guards surrounded him so they could not see. And I have another problem with your sergeant smacking him all in his face thinking that he was on drugs. Everyone's not on drugs. He just needed help that he was begging for a whole week that he did not get because you guys don't have proper medical staffing. And of course you guys are going to say that he died at Mercy Hospital because guess what? Y'all have no doctors to go declare anyone dead. How about that? So y'all need to get on y'all job and make this man do what he need to do because they are killing people inside that jail and are pushing the bodies out the door. And it's not fair to me. It's not fair to my family. It's not fair to all the other families who people who died in that jail. And y'all need to get on y'all job. Every last one of y'all. Thank you, Bethany, for coming and sitting in my living room talking to me. I appreciate that. I love you for that. You, Mr. Harper, you need fired. You don't even have the dignity to look at me. And I lost my son inside your jail and still no answers. You call another family and told them that their son was dead and it was mine. I didn't hear from you. My son died March 6th. I didn't hear from you till March 18th. You are wrong and you need to be fired.
Again, I'm not certain about the pronunciation of your first name, but it looks like Kina James. Kina, my apologies.
How's everybody doing? My name's Kina James, last name James. I am the coalition organizer for the Alliance for Police Accountability, also known as APA. I just want to start off by directing my first statement to Warden Harper. Your level of not caring is amazing to me. You're sitting 5 feet away from me, and you couldn't even look this mother in her face. You haven't looked a single person in their face, and every comment has been directed about your jail. 17 people have died in Allegheny County Jail. In Allegheny County Jail, you don't get to use hospitals as your scapegoat morgue. They die in the jail. Besides Ms. Wanda, I've talked to quite a few parents who have lost their loved ones in the jail. Some of who didn't even know their loved ones was hospitalized for 2 weeks, not finding out until the day before they died. I've heard the word respect a lot today. You know, we talk about respect. How can you respect a man who just doesn't care, who just does not care? People are getting served food with rat feces. There's been AHN has said they found black mold. I've been formerly incarcerated in there, and these people are not lying. No matter what these reports come out and say from the community that's incarcerated, Warden Harper says the opposite. People incarcerated say they wait up to 85 days for medical attention. He says they wait 4 to 5. People say they don't shower for a week at a time. He says they get showers every day. People say they're not eating past 5 o'clock. That's also a lie. I don't understand how hard it is for you to work with us, but believe, if you can't work with us, we're going to fight against you. Going into the solitary confinement referendum, you have done everything possible to ignore a law that the county passed. You know, no one asked for you. You were appointed. And I'm sorry if this seems disrespectful, but the way that you treat the nearly 2,000 incarcerated people in jail, the way that you treat their families, you don't deserve anybody's respect. Nobody's. Like, you need to be fired. And trust, your time is about to be up, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is Tanisha Long.
Hi, my name is Tanisha Long, Tanisha I just ask that everybody light a candle for Gerald Thomas as we come up on the first-year anniversary of his death in the Allegheny County Jail under the watch of Warden Harper, who is still somehow magically employed there. As many people know, there were expert reports released about the conditions in the jail. I know you're tired of hearing from activists. I know you're even tired of hearing from people who are incarcerated. I know you're tired of hearing from the family members, but I hope you at least have respect for a 42-year veteran former warden, for Dr. Coopers, who is a psychiatrist who is well-renowned in his field. On this post-Black History Month day, I would like to point out some things from the report that really struck me. Several people said that there is a CO there with a lynching scene tattooed on his arm. One of the direct quotes is, "There are some good COs, but some are very racist. They make fun of us for our tattoos, but one has a scene showing a lynching." Another person was more direct, saying, "It's a lynching of a Black baby." When we talk about mental health care, a lot of the things done in that jail are punitive. One of the quotes from Dr. Coopers, "Patients are ignored unless they express suicidal ideation. And if they do express such thoughts, they're mocked. Officers are quick to use force against those with mental health issues." They cited a lack of privacy, a lack of training. If you want to use Warden Harper's own words in his deposition, he admits that he does not attend de-escalation training annually with his officers. Is that not a problem? People who have mental health issues, they're taking their probably 5-minute psychiatrist visits in the open air where everyone can hear it. There's no individual counseling. One of the things that really struck me from the report is that there's someone who was put in the green suicide gown, and the officers saying, "Oh, Christmas tree," at them in their time of crisis. You have people being tased as they're trying to commit suicide. And one of the things that stuck out about the report is now the warden's so focused on preventing suicide that he ignores all other mental health issues. Unless you're on 5MD or the women's mental health pod, unless you're on the men's mental health pod, you're not receiving any type of mental health care. This is sadistic. This is not a man. This is a person who acts as a machine, who treats people as commodities. And at this point, if you have not read the expert reports, after knowing that they were reported on almost a week ago, you have a responsibility to do so. Because if I can do my homework, you can do your homework. And I swear to God, if I see one more person ignore Juana Saunders while she's speaking, if I see eyes rolled, if I see you looking bored, I will lose what little shred of respect I have for you. This is not okay. This is embarrassing.
Thank you.
Do better.
Thank you. We have Sharon Bonavolia.
Sharon Bonavolia, Bonavog, LIA, here with the Pennsylvania Interfaith Impact Network. Where is the motion? Corey O'Connor mentioned at last meeting to inform families of the incarcerated within 2 hours of transport to the hospital for any reason other than scheduled appointments, worded very carefully because there's so much frustration over what an emergency means. Where is that motion? It's not on the agenda today, and we are deeply concerned about that. How long do family members need to wait for simple action to help them advocate for a loved one in the hospital? In March, the month we honor women's history, I'd encourage you to honor the women and any family contacts for all the incarcerated, placing the motion on next month's agenda and passing it. And as this is Women's History Month, I want to especially keep in mind the women, one of whom is with us, who now are rewriting their own histories without the loved ones who died in the care of the Allegheny County Jail, in the care of you personally, Warden Harper. This is your county jail, your administration, on your watch. So let us please take a moment to honor the women who have been left behind, the mothers, the wives, the daughters, the grandmothers, the aunts, the friends. As I read through the names of the 17 people who have died: Richard Lenhart, Robert Blake, Cody Still, Daniel Pastoric, John Brady, Martin Buchek, Robert Harper, Vinkley Harris, Justin Brady, Paul Allen, Roger Millspaw, Paul Spisak, Gerald Thomas, Jerry Lee Ross Jr., Victor Joseph Zelenek, Ronald Andrus, Anthony Toloda.
Hopefully everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from the previous meeting. Is there a motion?
Y'all are fucking weird. I'm Warden Harper. I hope you get pink eye. I'm so sorry for your lies. Fuck all y'all. Except for you. Shut up.
Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from a previous meeting? Is there a motion? Motion's
So
been made.
moved. Second.
Any, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Old business, Judge Lazara?
All right, we were very hopeful that we were going to provide a recommendation for the position of jail liaison today. However, we need to do some background information, and that got a little bit delayed. So we are having that proceed. This person is going to be housed in the sheriff's office, so there are some things that the sheriff's office needs to look at with our candidates that we have right now. So that is being done now. We are scheduled to meet next Thursday, and as of next Thursday, we believe that we will finalize our recommendation to the board. So we apologize for not having that done today, but we want to make sure that all three candidates are vetted in the same exact way, because that's the fairest way to do things. And so that won't be done until next week, and then we will do our vote next Thursday. We are hoping, right? That's what should happen. So that's where that stands. So the next meeting, we are going to provide the recommendation of the Incarcerated Individuals Welfare Fund Subcommittee recommendation on the jail liaison position, and hopefully be able to get approval so that we can do the hiring at that point in time. And we're very excited because we did get some really great candidates, and so no matter who we pick, we think it's going to be a pretty great person. Second thing is the stats on the jail, which I always provide. I'm sorry, folks, that I did not print them out, but I sent everybody an email with them. They come at the last minute, and I'm sorry, but I made sure that I at least got them to everybody. So as of 4:30 p.m. on February 28th of 2023, there were 1,436 people in the Allegheny County Jail and 139 people in alternative housing, and that again excludes anybody with holds by the federal government. 6% or 89 of the people in the jail itself are serving a county sentence as the result of a new conviction. 24% or 34 out of 139 of people in alternative housing are serving a county sentence. 19% of the people in the jail, that's 271, are on a hold from an external jurisdiction, including other counties or the state. No one in alternative housing is on a hold from another jurisdiction. 43% or 622 people in the jail were detained by the Allegheny County Adult Probation Department. These individuals were detained for violating probation on a crime for which they had been previously convicted. Of those, 86% or 534 people were of moderate or high risk to reoffend based on their probation proxy score. The remainder were being held for a variety of reasons, including violent felonies, awaiting mental health commitments or service plans, and other reasons related to their own safety or the safety of the community. 27% of people in alternative housing, that's 37 of 139, were detained by Allegheny County probation. 86% of those, that's 32 of the 37, were detained, were of moderate or high risk based on their proxy score. 27% or 394 people in the jail itself were held pre-trial only, meaning that there were no other reasons, such as external holds or detainers, keeping them in the jail. Of these people, less than 1% screened as low risk for reoffense based on the Allegheny County locally validated pretrial risk instrument without consideration of the seriousness of their current offense. 17% of people in alternative housing, that's 24 of 139, were held pretrial only. And again, only one person out of that 24 screened as low risk for reoffense. 80 individuals, that's about 5% of the jail population, are being held in the Allegheny County Jail pretrial only on monetary bonds. Of these individuals, only 6 screened as low risk for new criminal activity, and all of these individuals were facing violent charges. Only 3 of 139 people in alternative housing are held on monetary bonds pre-trial, and none of those screened as low risk. All pretrial monetary bonds are reviewed for possible bail modification. If we, again, look historically, which we've been doing every month, as of March 16th, 2020, the day before the world shut down, there were 2,075 people in the Allegheny County Jail, including 1,859 in the jail itself and 216 in alternative housing. And we have a 23% decrease down to 1,436. And the alternative housing population has a 36% decrease down to 139. The detainer population in the jail as of March 16, 2020 was 889. It is currently, as I said, 622, and that is a 30% decrease. So those are the numbers, and then everybody should have received that in your emails.
Any questions, Ms. Allen?
I do have one question about it. Thank you so much for sending it by email. It's so nice to see it ahead of time instead of trying to follow the numbers in the meeting, so thank you.
It always comes in the last minute, so I'm sorry, but at least we have it.
No, I do appreciate that. My only question was, are you keeping track of the number of folks who are in the jail on BC holds? I know a lot of the folks that I talk to, that's a lot of time what they're sitting in the jail waiting for is a BC hold to be lifted, and I don't see that in the report.
That is kept track of. Pretrial services certainly has those numbers, but that is not something that we've reported on. If you want me to add that, I will try.
Please.
I can't guarantee that it'll be added for the next meeting, because as I told you, the guy that does these is on paternity leave. He just had a baby, and I think he's just plugging in numbers now because it's an easy thing to do. I don't know whether he can do the research to get it out, but I'll ask him.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Any other questions?
And by BC hold, you're meaning the people that are waiting for torrents?
No, I mean the people who are waiting to be cleared by some sort of mental health expert to get a BC hold lifted.
Okay, so a lot of those people will be also the Torrance folks, just so you know. I mean, that's...
Right. I understand the Torrance folks will be held on BC holds, but there are also a large population of folks who have like a short BC hold that once they get seen, it gets lifted, and then they have nothing else holding them. So I just want to keep track of that as well.
Okay, I will talk to them, because I'm quite sure pretrial services has that.
Any additional questions?
No, but I do have another comment about the Incarcerated Individuals Welfare Fund. We have been talking a lot about paying the incarcerated workers, and so I just wanted to, while we were on this part, give an update as well. Me and Ms. Klein met with a benefits expert to make sure, because a concern had been expressed that if we pay incarcerated workers, they would somehow, or their families, lose access to government assistance or other sort of benefits. And so we met with a benefits expert. The benefits expert is working with the Pennsylvania Department of Human Services to get us a written report that we can provide with the board and make sure that nobody would be negatively affected by the pay. But he seems to think that they wouldn't be, but we just wanted to get that in writing to provide to the rest of you. And also, I'm going to be working with the Controller's Office to develop a written proposal for the incarcerated workers' pay. Some folks had expressed interest in actually seeing it all in writing. Again, we've checked all the boxes. We talked to everyone that anyone had expressed any concerns about issues with paying incarcerated workers, and I'm hoping that we can get that proposal to you before next month and talk about it at next month's meeting. So just wanted to give the update.
Any additional questions?
Just one other thing on the Incarcerated Individuals Welfare Fund. We're also working on the recommendations, not the recommendations, the results of the survey that was done by Pitt's Social Work Department. We have several ideas on things that we can do to address some of the issues that are expressed there. We had a prior conversation about those a while back, and I think because of the review of a voluminous amount of Jail Oversight Board liaison resumes, it sort of got put on the back burner, unfortunately, but we had a conversation about those as well, and we're hoping to be able to provide some additional relief to the folks in there on some of the survey items that were revealed.
The only other question I have is I'm wondering who the person to ask is that actually has the breakdown of the expenditures that's coming out of the Incarcerated Individuals Welfare Fund. I love the report that we get that says the balance and the total expenditures. I'm just interested in a more line item expenditures coming out of that account. I don't know where that would come from. Is that the Controller's Office or is it the county or what?
I would think that's the Controller's Office.
Is it? Okay. Oh, you do have it?
I don't have it on me, but yeah.
Yeah, if maybe along with this report that we get with the total balance, if we could see, because we used to see, this is what's come out of there. I know it's not just the monthly stipend that we're allocating, so I'm just wondering if we can see each month with this, what has came out in the last month.
That and the vaccine.
That's it, nothing else is being spent.
Right, because
Double check.
Okay, if you could just double check, I just want to keep track of if there's anything else ever coming out of
Yeah,
it.
no, if you remember, Ms. Hallam, they used to come with motions and ask for money to be expended out of there, and that has stopped. That hasn't occurred for probably, is it 2 years now, maybe?
At least, yeah.
So I think the only thing that's coming out of there is the vaccine. When they get vaccinated, they get their money, and then the money that's provided on the tablet and the commissary.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it stopped happening or if we just stopped getting reports. That's the only reason I was asking. Okay, thank you, guys.
Anything else? So, new business. There was a concern expressed last meeting about the delay in having the incarcerated individuals paid their $125. I spoke with the jail, and they informed me of the issues related to the delay. And to that end, I've drafted a motion to request money from the Incarcerated Individual Welfare Fund to be put on the joint tablet commissary accounts for each incarcerated individual in the ACJ based on the total population on the first day of the month for April, May, and June. Each person will receive $125 to be calculated and paid monthly.
I second that motion.
Any opposed? All in favor?
Aye. Can I ask one question, though, about it? I'm very much an aye, but I just want to ask a question. What was the holdup? Because I thought that's what we did in January, was we voted to do it quarterly, and we approved it for 3 months at a time so that there wouldn't be any holdup. And then I talked to folks in the jail, and they were receiving payments almost an entire month behind and then 2.5 weeks behind.
My understanding,
And Deputy Toma could speak to it probably better than I can, but the delay was in that first month, I think, to get it, to put through the contract and all that stuff, to go through, every quarter they would have to go do that.
Right.
So by doing it this way, it's happening now, so there'd be no delay in April, May, or June.
Right, I understand, but that's what we did in January, if you remember,
if
and
there was-
February's was
right.
delayed too.
No, February's delayed by a couple days because checks are only cut on Tuesdays and Thursdays within the county. So February's check has already been deposited.
I know it has by now on March 2nd, but it was not deposited in the first week of February. It was deposited on February 15th.
I would have to check as to what the deposit date was for that. I do know that whether or not, I can't speak to what the date is off the top of my head, but we submit it after the jail oversight board, or after the first of the month. We submit the voucher, it goes through the process, and then we have to wait till Tuesday or Thursday for the check. As soon as we get in hand, it's deposited, then applied.
Okay, I guess I'm just trying to understand why that didn't happen for the first 3 months. Like, when will Marches go in? Because you shouldn't have had to wait for this meeting to request it, right?
No, we have to wait till the first of the month to get the value, since that's what we base it on, and then we get the check. We have to request the check. We have to go through the normal purchasing process for it. Then the check has to be cut by the treasurer's office. Once we get that check, then it's deposited, and then my staff has to manually add that to every person's account. There are some individuals at the time the check is deposited are on release, so if they're at the if they're out for court, they don't show as being in the facility, so once they are back, then we have to manually add those to those individuals. So there could be some delay from those people versus the other ones that got it because they weren't out on temp releases.
Okay, I have folks keeping track of the dates that it's deposited, so I just want to try to give a timeline. Are you thinking like a week after the first of the month is kind of the
We have done
deadline?
our process of it. We have submitted the invoice for the request. It has to go through the other two departments for approval and then for the check to be cut. So we expect the check to be cut Tuesday or Thursday of next week, and then once we get it, we will deposit it.
All right, thank you.
All right. All right. With that being said, we'll now have the warden's report.
Good afternoon, board, and good afternoon to everybody in attendance. Reentry services at Allegheny County Jail. The jail's reentry service department worked with the inmate programs to bring back contact visits for our juvenile population. The first visits took place on February 18th, where 6 incarcerated juveniles visited their loved ones. The contact visits lasted for an hour, and families were able to visit, play cards, and play board games, and take family photos that are available for the families to take home and for the juveniles to view on their tablets. Tentatively, contact visits for the juvenile population will continue on the third Saturday of each month going forward. The latest setup, reentry classes, concluded on February the 17th as 84 individuals completed the Thinking for Change class. Thinking for Change is an evidence-based program that includes structured cognitive behavior treatment designed to help clients manage stress and develop new ways of thinking. The next cycle of reentry classes began on February the 28th and last for 6 weeks. All incarcerated individuals are eligible to take classes based on availability, and classes are taught by instructors from the Pittsburgh Mercy Health System. Inmate programs. The Inmate Programs Department facilitated voting for February's special election. 3 individuals voted in the election that filled empty seats in the Pennsylvania State Districts 32, 34, and 35. Information about voting rights and procedures remain permanently on the tablets. The video that we placed on the tablets last fall remains accessible to the incarcerated population and fully outlines all rights and procedures for registering and requesting an absentee ballot. The Inmates Program Department will again provide information via posters and the pod television as we near the dates for the May municipal primary. Reintegrative services. During February, the jail transported 41 individuals to alternative housing, and 18 individuals were released to inpatient treatment through our diversion program. A total of 81 individuals were assisted in completing medical assistant applications to ensure that they have health insurance upon release from the facility. Visits. The jail resumed contactless visits for all incarcerated individuals and approved visitors regardless of COVID-19 vaccination status on February the 13th. Juveniles. The juvenile population last week was moved from level 5M to level 6. The non-regulation basketball hoop installed on the previous juvenile pod gym had to be reinstalled several times after it was torn out of the wall. This move to a larger housing unit gives them access to more space and a larger pod gym with a regulation basketball hoop. We hope that this move ends the property destruction and needs for repair. Training. A total of 540 staff members have completed training in verbal de-escalation and interpersonal communication. This training is in addition to and serves to reinforce the mandatory instructions that all frontline staff, including correctional officers, must undergo during job training. Training has included mental health first aid, suicide prevention and mental health disorders, CPR and first aid, interpersonal communication, professionalism and ethics, drug awareness, and the legal aspect of corrections are amongst other trainings that's taught. Once initially trained, additional classes, including recertification for CPR and first aid, are offered on a rotating basis. Our chaplaincy department. The chaplains department continues preparation for Ramadan, which begins in late March. With more than 300 Muslim inmates, this takes a tremendous amount of teamwork, planning, and coordination with multiple departments to make this religious observation possible. Pre-release services. The Foundation of Hope pre-release program held its recent graduation on February the 3rd. The men's class graduated 13 individuals who participated in 40 hours of evidence-based classes on anger management, confronting stinking thinking, trauma, parenting, spiritual formation, and addiction and recovery. Yoga and 12-step programs are also offered, but not required. The women's program, which resumed in January, saw 22 women complete the anger management classes on February 3rd. Addiction and recovery and trauma classes began on the women's pod in mid-February and are ongoing. Discharge and Release Center. The Discharge and Release Center assessed 267 individuals in February. The DRC continues to make referrals to our community partners for services and assistance and to provide resources to assist individuals upon their release. And lastly, the Employee of the Month, we would like to congratulate Nikki Frolick for being the Employee of the Month for the month of February. Now we'll pass it over to Chief Deputy Warden Beeson.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, Board. Good afternoon, everyone in attendance. Staffing, there's been no recent promotions under jail operations for the month of February. The jail is currently completing psychological testing for the next cadet class, which is scheduled to begin on Monday, March 27th. State transfers, we currently have 17 males, 0 females with 300 Bs, 4 males with detainers, and 9 males with open cases. The longest wait time on a 300B was received on February 2nd, and the shortest wait time is from March 2nd. We have scheduled transports in the next coming weeks. Federal inmate numbers currently are 57. 35 of those are United States Marshal holds, and 12 are federal transfers for Allegheny County Court. And the use of force numbers for February 2023 was 32. I'll pass it on to Deputy Warden Toma to continue the report.
Hello. For the month of February, due to scheduling conflict, the Book Review Committee did not meet. However, we did distribute the agenda items, the continuing ongoing status update on those items, to include distributing them to Ms. Moss, who joined the committee as of last month per motion of the board. The electronic receipt submission procedure that we are working on with Administrative Services and the Department of Information Technology is still in the process of process mapping. We've expanded this electronic receipt submission procedure to include the ability for communication, to do follow-up and monitoring the submission of books, as well as for the appeal process for outside entities and continue communication with them. As a short-term solution, the email address of acjbookorders@alleghenycounty.us has been established for the submission of electronic receipts to address this issues and is communicated to those individuals who receive books that lack receipts, and will also be distributed via facilities messages so that they're aware of this in advance. So if they choose to proactively submit electronic receipts, we can have that in advance of those books being delivered. The library we have purchased our furniture, and it should be delivered next week for installation. This library not only includes the expansion of increasing capacity by 2 times as much as it previously did, but also provides space for a permanent location for individuals to work who are managing the library, curating, as well as hopefully when we reestablish volunteers, they have a permanent home, which wasn't previously available with the previous library setup. Book nights continue to be on every Wednesday, with carts being circulated between the pods, as well as full replacement occurring every 5th week. Book requests. We are still receiving on average about 100 book requests each week. These are not only for curation of the pod library carts, but also for consideration of books to be added to the e-library. Those books are still placed before, at least the e-library books are put before committee to make sure that they are appropriate, because the e-library is available to the juvenile population, and we continue to increase that catalog every month. And we have had no books under review for content that are distributed to the Book Review Committee for the month. In regards to the food RFP, that was distributed to the Jail Oversight Board today when it was made publicly available at 9 o'clock. The RFP will come down on April 5th at 12 noon. As stated in the RFP, we have 2 site visits for prospective proposers for the dietary food contract. And passing off to Dr. Brinkman.
Hello, everyone. So for our COVID-19 update, our incarcerated individuals, currently we have 10 who are positive within the facility and 0 hospitalized. And the total amount of incarcerated individuals tested for COVID-19 during February was 1,276. Of those, 32 or 2.5% were found to be positive. For vaccination updates, currently 563 of our incarcerated individuals have completed a full series of the vaccine, which is about 37.4%. For medications for opioid use disorder and the expansion efforts, for the month of February, there were 12 individuals prescribed oral naltrexone, with 1 receiving the Vivitrol injection prior to community release. 76 were treated with Suboxone, and 13 were treated with Sublocade. Of these, 6 patients were transitioned from Suboxone to Sublocade to support their recovery. Methadone continuation services have treated 33 individuals, with 21 currently enrolled. For Torrance commitments and admissions during February, 5 patients were admitted and transferred to Torrance. 10 patients were committed to Torrance State Hospital. 5 had their commitments to Torrance for competency restoration rescinded due to clinical stabilization. And currently 25 are awaiting admission to Torrance State Hospital, with the longest waiting since December 2nd. December 2nd. For tiers 4 and 5, in the month of February, 4 were identified as tier 5 and 20 were identified as tier 4 through the tier system. For some of our healthcare waiting times and appointment queues. Our sick call request for medical has 14 as of today, with the longest waiting of 2 days. For sick call to reach mental health staff, we have 13 patients waiting, with the longest waiting 1 day. For psychiatrists, we have 66 with the longest waiting 7 days. And for mental health specialists, we have 12 with the longest waiting 2 days. I did want to provide a little bit of an update regarding staffing to complete the full healthcare staffing picture. In the Warden's report, you're only seeing county staff and permanent AHN staff. So that equals a vacancy rate of about 54%. With the supplementation of all of our contractors, our actual vacancy rate is 23% when you consider in how many we have from staffing agencies to support all job classifications. Also related to staffing, I did want to alert you to a leadership change we had regarding our medical director, who's provided by our AHN partner. It was decided for our existing director to be transitioned outside of ACJ. During this transition time, AHN leadership is collaborating with us to ensure on-site providers are supported and ultimately patients are receiving excellent care. And then for healthcare successes, we have our 340B program, which is a federal drug pricing program. We've officially begun participating in this. That supports a variety of health conditions impacting public health, largely sexually transmitted infections, that will fund medications. This has taken an extraordinary amount of research, implementation planning, and effort from multiple county departments to initiate. And participating in this program will allow eligible medication costs to be diverted from our medication budget as they're repriced at a reduced rate. In regards to a variety of prevention efforts, I wanted to raise a particular incident that we had. Our healthcare and public safety staff professionals work routinely. Their work routinely includes interventions that prevent major incident. When prevention occurs, it's often minimized because professionals identify their actions as part of their job. So when I have the opportunity, I want to recognize these instances. Recently, we had a young man come into the facility who had previously been seen at the hospital. A part of our processes are to complete a body scan which showed an unidentified object. Upon healthcare assessment and coordination with custody staff, the team escalated his care to the hospital, and ultimately the patient received life-saving measures and care, saving the patient's life, who is now stable and continuing through his legal processes. Had these staff not practiced with the urgency and expertise that they did, we would have seen a very different outcome. We most often talk about the tragedies, particularly today, having reviewed the mortality review earlier, and these team members need to be commended and their work publicly recognized.
And I also want to comment on this because my staff don't get a lot of praise for the work that they do. And this is just one example of the many lives that we've saved at the jail. So I want to thank every employee, every contractor, every volunteer for the work that they do and saving the lives that you save. And this is just one example of a life that was saved. Thank you.
So the last thing I wanted to present to everyone was that we had expanded our mental health acute beds within our mental health housing units. So with the ability to relocate the juveniles within the facility, the team was able to expand mental health housing to support the increased number of patients experiencing higher levels of acute mental illness. This week, Healthcare and Custody collaborated on a housing expansion to allow for 2 housing units to be dedicated to our male acute mental health patients, and moving what was our subacute population to the 5MC unit. This allows for decreased waiting times for those male patients who require admission to the acute mental health unit. Ultimately, better clinical outcomes, as they will have less barriers to their treatment beginning. And that's all I have this afternoon.
I have a question. Back when you were talking about the staffing from agencies, what was the number that you gave? That how many agencies that are taking up some of the slots that are...
Right, it reduced our vacancies from 54% to 23%.
So we're still 23% short.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? Controller O'Connor.
Thank you. Sorry. So a couple questions. From last month, and this is actually from 2021, there was that RFP 8611. It was a de-escalation on use of force. It was supposed to be fulfilled, but I've asked that a couple times. If we can get an answer on that RFP, that would be very, very helpful. A couple things that we saw.
I can respond to
you have that RFP? Okay,
So
great.
RFP 8611 was for the Correctional Incident Response Program Development and Training. The RFP was posted on 10/7/2021, and it was closed on November 3rd, 2021. No one applied for it in part or in whole, submitting a proposal. As a result, the Allegheny County Jail developed an in-house training for our Correctional Incident Response Unit, as well as collaborated with the Department of Human Services to provide additional training in de-escalation. What was the other one, Chief? Mental health first aid, and we continue to work with DHS to provide that training.
Do you have like a copy of what that training is? Is there like a manual you guys put together, or it's just sort of you guys are working together on that?
Yeah, we've identified it as the topic, and there is some guidelines as to what's proposed in the training. There's some PowerPoints and obviously.
Oh, that'd be great to get that. Yeah, because I mean
I will consult with
that would be
DHS
because I've asked that question a few times. So
The training curriculum is proprietary, and it's not ours. It's a curriculum that we're using, and we have trained the trainers from places like
so you're using, so it would be like, and I'm being vague with this, but it's something like, okay, I don't have that in my office. I found something online. I'm using that as a form of training?
No, we had multiple staff that were trained as trainers by these other
Right, so I'm
vendors.
just asking, can you provide where they were trained?
Oh, you mean like the physical location?
Or
of where they were
whatever
trained?
sort of curriculum they went through for the training. That seems like that's...
Yeah, we'll talk with DHS and get the vendor information.
Yeah, I mean, that answers that question. But yeah, that would be information that we should have, yeah. On the tablets, I know I've asked this before, and I know there was some discussion, a couple weeks ago, whether our minutes were up or not. And I know we've asked to have our website linked to the tablets as soon as we can. And I know we've been working on that just because our site has the inspections, warden report, the minutes can go up a lot faster. So I don't know where we are on that. I just wanted to make mention of that.
The tablets will require the controller's office to interface with the vendor via path, because it's a proprietary software on that requires an application, so that must be developed. Additionally, the website that it is linking to must meet certain security guidelines, as well as the documents that are on that website must meet specific security guidelines.
So we can reach out to them to do that.
That would be with ViaPath.
Okay, can you just get me who that contact is? We'll be glad to go through that process. That's perfect. There were a couple other questions. We saw this on pest control. I've seen contracts come in and we go through them before we approve them, but I know Fort Pitt on pest control, it's more exterminators. But have we done anything, obviously extermination is one, but have we put any capital funds to, outside issues for pests coming in? Like, are we filling up walls? Are we spending money on our own facility? These are more extermination contracts that we see, but are there any capital requests that are going to seal up about the rats and things like that?
So those would be through facilities management. We use the CityWorks and we put those work order requests. One major project as part of our pest mitigation was addressing the garage and our compactor. We actually filled the gaps and placed steel beams in there so that the concrete would not wear away, so it was longer lasting and would not create entry points.
Okay, when did we do those capital recently?
Yeah, it would have been sometime last year for that project.
Okay. And then I know you mentioned the RFP, and I do want to thank you for putting those quality assurance that we put in. I mean, I think, when you're looking at food, it shouldn't just be calories, it should be quality. So I want to thank you for taking our recommendations on federal guidelines and putting them in the RFP that I saw that was going out. And then a couple of things we did our DHS audit was finalized where, we saw last year that 12,000 kids were impacted by having a caregiver spend time at the jail. So, in moving forward, I know we've reached out to your office as well as DHS on getting more information to caregivers at the jail. I know we've talked about posters, hopefully putting something on tablets for organizations that they could reach out to. We already sat down internally in my office with the food bank to hopefully provide those families with much needed care as well. So after we follow up with them, we'll have another meeting. Hopefully you guys can attend and talk to us about how the food bank can get involved in that process as well. And then I know it was asked about our motion and the MOU. I know we're in the process of hiring liaisons, so I would just ask board members, I know we got a couple responses on the motion that we're talking about, but if anybody has issues, please let us know as quick as we can. So if we have to make amendments, if we have to do a pilot for a couple months, let's work on moving that motion forward as best we all can for the next meeting. So I know I want to thank, I believe, Terry and Bethany, and actually I think Kevin also responded to it as well. So if anybody has any edits to those motions, I think we should take those up. I understand the MOU can come after we find the liaison, but that's something that's also really important. So those are all the questions that I have for right now, but thank you.
Ms. Howland.
Thank you so much. First of all, I just wanted to clarify, there's the MOU, and then there is the notification for the families of people who died or hospitalized in the jail. And Controller O'Connor, I thought that we were going to do that today. I know you had sent it ahead in advance, meeting the deadline that was set to get something on the agenda, but yet I didn't see anything on the agenda. So I'm just wondering if you could speak to that.
Yeah, that's where, we've asked members for responses on that, and as I just mentioned, we've got limited response. So that's why, we'll take another crack at it. I know there were issues with the motion and the amendment, or the motion and amendment, but the motion, so we ask again, please, before next month's meeting, let's have a full discussion on that. If there are issues, I'm tempted to just vote it down, but I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think, we're getting your amendments, we're getting other amendments from members of the board. If we can get everybody's thoughts on it, if it's good, great. If there's something we need to tweak, let's have those discussions before we come back to next month's meeting. But something has to move forward in that discussion. That's our point.
Is your intention for it to be on next month's agenda?
I would hope so.
Okay, mine too. I just want to make sure. Okay, awesome. So I do have a couple questions for some of the folks up here. First of all, and this is kind of more of a administrative thing, but whenever we get the agenda, we get all the different topics that from the chief deputy warden's reports that are organized really clearly so we know what's going to be talked about. But for the warden's report, it seems from the notes that he reads every month that he has categories. So I don't know if that's a putting together the agenda or if this is information that comes from the jail, but I'm just wondering if we could get a more detailed bullet points under the warden's report on each agenda like we get on the chief deputy warden's report.
The reason why the agenda is done in that manner is because by telling the warden what he'll report on by way of the county controller's office, it limits him and it restricts him in the information he intends to report. The things under the chief deputy warden's report are things that we have agreed that we're going to discuss at every meeting. So we found it's been more restrictive when we limit his discussion to things that have been brought up in previous meetings versus allowing him to report on the things that he thinks are noteworthy. If there's something you feel that merits additional concern or question or discussion, free to bring it up in old business in the next meeting.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't want to limit. I just feel like a lot of the same things are reported every month, and so it would be nice if we could see a list here just to keep track. But all right, I'll move on. Okay, so the next thing is I appreciate that we got the RFP for the food service provider. I have a couple questions on it, but mainly my number one is we've asked for this over and over again. We have asked for it in previous jail board meetings. I submitted written requests via email, giving a timeline, even adding an extra week by which we wanted this. We got it at the same time that it was public. And I just want to remind the jail administration that the statute that authorizes our work here on the jail board says that we have access to this throughout drafting, before it's published. And so I guess, you had told us last month you'd look into providing it for us, and then we didn't get it until 9 o'clock this morning on the day of the jail board meeting. And I'm just wondering if there's any response to that. Why?
It was provided at the same time that it was made public. Due to our fair and our procurement procedure, we do not make drafts available because it may or may not give unfair advantage to those candidates, so we do not release drafts of those documents prior to being publicly posted for the procurement process is through the purchasing department. They own the record. So that is where we produce it at the time that it is made public.
Okay, do you understand that the state statute that authorizes this jail board gives us access to all documents at all times, including drafts, including pre-published RFPs?
Records can be reviewed, as the warden has previously stated, at the Allegheny County Jail. He has also offered that we will come with those documents for you to review prior to it, but I will not be releasing any drafts of documents that are the ownership of another process or procurement process of the Allegheny County. It protects the county from unfair bidding or proposal practices for the procurement process.
Do you understand that the statute doesn't say anything about us having to go meet with the warden or us having to go to the jail to review documents? It actually says shall have access to all documents at all times.
And I will make myself available, Ms. Hallam, to the board as a whole, or as so described by the chair of the board, for you to review those documents. But again, I state I will not be releasing any drafts of documents, but we will make them available for review, as you've stated, prior to its public official release.
All right, so I do just want to remind you again what the statute says, and legal opinions have disputed your view of what the statute gives us access to. And I just want to remind you, if I have to sue the jail administration in a mandamus lawsuit to compel you to provide those documents, I would do that. I would like to avoid that. But I will do that, and I just want to make sure you're aware of that, and I'm giving you notice now that we have asked for many documents over and over again, not just these ones. Specifically at the last meeting, also job descriptions for the new jobs that were created under the new food service contract. I haven't received those either, so I just want to give you notice that I will take appropriate action if this continues. Okay? All right, and so going along those lines, right, so there's some other things that we asked for that I waited until all of you gave your reports, and I've asked for this over and over and over again and still haven't received, so I don't know if anyone has the information with them they want to speak to. I requested a use of force breakdown by pod at multiple meetings.
I provided that to the chair today.
I apologize. I was in court. I didn't see any email, so I apologize. If you did provide it to me, I did not see it, so I apologize.
Okay, and I want to make it very clear, we are all equal members of this board, except for Mr. Pilarski, but the rest of us are equal members of this board, and I would really appreciate if we didn't have that funnel breakdown of the chair being the only person who gets the information because of instances like that. It would have been really nice to review that information ahead of time. So please, any communications that you're directing about the business of the Jail Oversight Board, can you please forward them to each member of the board?
I'll forward them to the chair, and he can distribute it as he deems appropriately.
Who is the chair of this board?
Judge Housing.
And why do you believe that he's the chair of this board?
He's on here because Judge Clark put him on the board.
I do not dispute that, but why do you believe he's the chair of this board?
Does he not run this meeting?
I asked, why do you believe he's the chair of this board?
You have another question, Ms. Hallam?
Is that not a fair question?
It is not. Do you have another question?
I do have many more questions. Okay. Additionally, other documents that I had asked for in the past and have not gotten, logs of when meals are served to the various pods. Did you provide that to the chair this morning as well? Chair. No, okay. The logs of recreation that are given for the individuals and various pods of the jail, did you provide that to any member of the board? Rec logs? We'd ask for that as well. Additionally, I was wondering if anybody could speak to recent allegations of altering of rec logs. Has anyone in the jail administration been made aware of any allegations of recreation logs being altered?
That's something that I would like to talk to the board offline, not in this public setting.
Okay.
Public has to quit yelling out because it's inappropriate.
I would like to ask, what is your justification for withholding that from a public setting? I don't believe that it meets any of the exceptions under the Sunshine Act. Personnel matter, safety, security. Which one are you alleging that discussing this now would be?
I don't think that this is the appropriate time to discuss that in this setting, Ms. Holland. So I'll be more than happy to talk to you about this in a private executive session, but not in this setting.
But do you understand the breadth of the Sunshine Act that gives specific exceptions to things that you don't have to discuss in public meetings? Are you aware of that act?
I'm aware of the act, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so I would ask once again, what do you believe exception this falls under, why you do not have to talk about it in a public meeting?
I don't know what exception, Ms. Holland, but again, I will be more than willing to discuss this with you in an executive session, ma'am.
So the answer is not no.
Happy to discuss this in an executive session, ma'am.
That is plenty of an answer. Okay, thank you very much. Next, what about the providing us meal logs and rec logs? Are we going to get those at the next meeting, or are you all preparing a way to provide those to us? We've asked for them numerous meetings now.
The addition of food logs was just started by the vendor recently, within the last couple of weeks. So I can try and compile those before the meeting.
So prior to a few weeks ago, the jail was not keeping track of when meals were served to each pod?
The vendor is tracking whenever the food carts exit the kitchen being sent upstairs. Other than that, like I said in previous meetings, the only thing that was being tracked was when the corrections officer on the housing unit would put it in the individual logbook on that housing unit when the cart arrived.
Right, and I had asked for documentation of those logs.
Yes,
Did you provide them?
I did not.
Okay, is there a reason why they weren't provided?
I believe at that meeting I said it was too burdensome.
But you do admit that the logs exist?
As a log in the housing unit, yes.
And will they be provided to us at the next meeting and going forward? Now
I'm
that
gonna
the
get the
vendor...
logs from the vendor as they fill them out each day, each meal period, with the times that each cart going to the particular housing unit leaves it, so I can get those logs, yes.
Okay, and that started a few weeks ago, but can I ask why you didn't bring them today?
I didn't have them.
Okay. And my understanding is that incarcerated individuals from the kitchen are serving the food to the various pods. Is that true? Is that true?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
Who serves the food to the individuals on the pod?
Once it arrives on a pod,
Yeah, who delivers it to the pod?
the workers in the hallways.
So are you, I just want to understand correctly, are you saying that we haven't been tracking incarcerated individuals as they move through the jail to deliver those carts to the various pods?
The carts are put onto the housing units. Once they're in the housing units, the trays are then delivered to the individuals living on that housing unit by other individuals who live on that unit.
Right, but incarcerated individuals are moving throughout the jail to the various pods to deliver those carts from the kitchen?
No. No, the carts are sent from the ground floor on an elevator up to the particular level where they're picked up by a hall worker and then put into the appropriate housing unit.
Right, but who is sending them up the elevator? Who is taking them up the elevator?
They get sent up 2 carts at a time. There's no individuals on the elevator with the carts.
No people, just goes carts.
The carts are placed on an elevator. Nobody else is on there.
The hall worker goes to the elevator and grabs them? Okay, so are you keeping track of those individuals as they're moving the carts? I'm just confused, I guess, and maybe I'm not expressing it clearly enough, how we don't know the times that meals are being delivered to the pods when there are workers who are receiving them, who are putting them on the elevator. I'm just wondering why up until this point there was no way of keeping track of that.
They were keeping track on the individual units.
Okay, and we have not been provided with that information.
Correct.
Okay. Next question is, the meeting minutes. So I know there had been some discussion with the controller's office about whether it was syncing up with the website or whatever that is. But we approved these meeting minutes for the previous month, right? So January's meeting minutes that we approved in February should have arrived on the tablet shortly after that meeting. And as of the end of February, they had not been on there. So can I ask, what is the delay? What is the hang up on once we approve them and the controller's office sends them over, getting them on the tablets?
The meetings were posted on the tablet, sent via facilities message, I believe. I reached out to the controller's office. They sent me the meeting minutes because I'm not on the distribution, so they gave them to me and they were posted. If you give me a minute, I can find the exact date, but they were posted, the January minutes at the beginning of February.
Okay, I spoke to multiple individuals, it wasn't within the past few days, probably about a week ago, and the January meeting minutes were still not on the tablet, and these were separate individuals on separate pods.
I can state when they were posted through facilities messages. I have the record as to when I sent out the message. As to whether or not they were looking in the appropriate place, I would have to know who those individuals are to look at the tablets and how they're accessing the tablets to confirm if they're looking in the correct place.
Sure, the date of the message would be helpful.
Okay. It's going to take me a minute so you can continue.
Okay. My next question is, it was mentioned about contact visits and kids in the jail getting contact visits. Can I ask who all gets contact visits in the jail?
Right now, it's just the juveniles, so we're looking to expand it to our kitchen workers, and then we're going to slowly bring it back to our program and inmates. So the next group will be our kitchen workers, and then we're going to look at providing it to our program inmates.
Okay, and is everyone or just the kids only getting one contact visit a month?
Just the juveniles right now.
Okay, the adults get more frequent contact visits?
When we start with the kitchen, it would be one contact visit a month, just like the juveniles.
Okay, and why are the children in the jail only afforded one contact visit a month?
Because we wanted to start slowly. We just don't want to open it up 3 or 4 times a month. That's something we can look at in the future, and that's what we've done in the past. So we can look at maybe providing more, but I would have to talk to my team about that.
Okay, what are the logistical barriers to more frequent contact visits for children in the jail?
I don't know what logistical barriers, but I would like to talk to my team to see if they feel that it's appropriate. We can get back to you, Ms. Holland, about that.
Yes, please do, along with the list of other things that you're going to get back to me on. I would really, really appreciate that. Next thing is the medication for opioid use disorder timeline for induction. Again, I hear a lot about people who come into the jail on existing prescriptions for MOUD, but as we know, that's not the majority of the people who would benefit from getting MOUD. A lot of these people are coming in actively using drugs, and we've heard month after month, even before you were here, when Laura Williams was sitting there, we had heard that induction was happening. What is a realistic timeline for that? What is the holdup?
I don't have the timeline right now.
Okay, how long would you say this has been in the process starting induction?
I'm not sure I clearly understand what part of the process are you talking about? Like, what is...
Induction for people to get medications for opioid use disorder.
I understand.
We have been talking about it for, it feels like a couple years now, and it still isn't happening. And so I'm wondering if you are aware of how long we have been talking about it and being promised that it was coming.
I understand that it was something that we have wanted to move toward. I do not have a timeline on when that will happen.
Can you fill us in on the time of the most recent steps that were taken towards that happening?
Reviewing what needs we would have for moving in that direction.
As in number of people that would need it, or what?
I don't have any more details right now, Ms. Hallam.
So it's just not really moving? Is that what's happening? Because that's just what it seems like to us, that every month it's, oh, it's coming, oh, it's coming, oh, it's coming, but it really isn't.
People are dying.
People are dying.
People are dying.
I don't have any more information I can share right now.
Okay, well, will you please bring us an accurate timeline to the next meeting of a realistic implementation of MOUD induction?
I can find out if my team can figure out what the timeline could look like.
Yeah, and I would like to include, like, what are the steps that are in process or you're waiting for? I just don't understand. I mean, we've seen, methadone centers open, like from construction to implementation, in lesser time than the jail just starting new people on a prescription takes. I just don't understand. Okay, so please bring that at the next meeting along with the other things that we've talked about today.
I will do my best.
Thank you. Please do it. Next, we talked about books, and so in a library, which obviously thrilled about the library. Is there any intent to hire a librarian to make those books in that library more accessible to the people in the jail outside of the book carts?
Hire librarian? No, not at this time.
Okay. Has there ever been a librarian at the jail?
Not to my knowledge.
And is there a reason that we think we can operate a successful library without a librarian?
I have no response to the question at this time. The Book Review Committee and Ms. Moss, I'm sure that will be something that we will be discussing, and it will be on the agenda. So she's on our Book Review Committee. Again, a lot of things are being discussed within that group. And to answer your other question, February 8th was when the facilities message was sent out with the January meeting minutes.
Okay. Okay, and I want to clarify something. I thought the book review committee that Ms. Moss was sitting on was specifically about reviewing books that are being banned for content. I didn't understand that the book review committee is doing all of the policies and procedures related to books.
At previous meetings, I have reported that our Book Review Committee not only is the committee which gets the books that are under content review, but they are the ones who are addressing the curation of the e-library. We also get all the requests for the books for the curation of the carts. Anything to do with books passes before the committee regarding the policies or anything moving forward, as well as they're involved in the process of improvement, as I spoke to the development of the e-library receipt. So it is just not one topic. We have expanded that to include that group to be everything under that topic.
Okay, so then why didn't that committee meet? I thought the reason that book committee hadn't met was because there was no books to review for content.
No, I reported that the February meeting did not occur due to logistical reasons and scheduling.
In scheduling, okay. So I guess my question is then who all is on that committee currently?
As I previously stated at the meeting, there's the committee who meets regarding the book review, and then there's those individuals that would be the ones who would review the books for content exception. As far as the whole book committee, it would be myself, the inmate programs director, representation from chaplaincy, so it's not a single person. They send whom they designate to that. Representation from the school in the adult program, as well as the juvenile program, so that would be 2 representatives from AIU, and then as well as Ms. Moss.
Okay, so it is not the same people all the time. It fluctuates who comes from each entity?
Just the chaplains, just from the chaplains.
Okay, the representatives from AIU, or sorry, you said the schooling and the adult programs, that's always the same people?
We asked them to send representatives. It has been consistent, but if those people aren't there, we ask that somebody from that organization be present for those discussions.
Okay, great, thank you. My next, yeah, please.
On the web is the report. I put a report on the web. I think it was put on today. On the meeting and a lot of the things you're asking. And if you go on the web and the people in the audience, you'll see the report from the meetings that Mr. Toma and I had.
When you say the web, where?
The website. My report's on there. I wrote a complete report on the visits and what's taking place.
Oh, awesome. From your work on the book review committee? Sure. Can you send that along to us all when you compile those as well?
Well, I can.
Awesome. That would be super helpful.
I just wanted it on the web so it'll be there for this time. There will be more.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Ms. Watson. Thank you for your work on that committee. I'm glad we have representation on there. Okay, the next thing I want to ask about is, I'd been getting reports from individuals that I'm speaking with in the jail about a petition going around due to smaller portions on the trays that incarcerated individuals have been noticing lately. Is that something any of you have heard reports about from incarcerated individuals?
Can I say something about that? I happened to be there for lunch, and there were not small portions. I was there for almost 2 hours the other day, and I did review the cafeteria. I spoke to some of the inmates, or I don't like to say inmates, the residents, and to the people that are running the cafeteria. And the time that I was there were, they had just had extermination people they're checking out to keep, about the cleanliness. They're doing a really good job. I was very impressed with what they're trying to do. Plus, they have set up quite a few things for the residents that are working the 2 shifts there. They've made a lounge for them. They've also activated the phones down there so that when they're away all those hours, they can still talk to people at home and have visitors. And they're putting TVs in so that they can have an area to when they take their break and eat, and they fix them up a nice place to eat. So if you read the report, there's a lot of that.
I will, thank you.
And I did talk to everyone down there, and then I reviewed the book in the library and all that.
Okay, and who did you meet with when you went there?
Quite a few people.
Was this a planned visit, like you had planned to go there?
And no, I stopped in on Tuesday. I don't know, was it the 28th?
Okay.
But they, they were kind enough to take me to the places I asked, and I sat and I talked with everybody.
Great. I appreciate you doing that.
And then I asked questions.
Yeah.
So it's in good hands.
What is?
I'll make me going there, it will be in good hands.
I trust you. Thank you. You made me think of something actually, Ms. Moss, so thank you for that. So incarcerated individuals who are working in the kitchen, they get breaks, I guess? How long are those breaks?
We don't have that information readily available, but we can get it for you for the next meeting.
12-hour schedule.
But she was asked about how long the breaks are. We'll get that for the next meeting.
Okay, and how many hours a day are folks working in the kitchen?
Right now, they're on a 12-hour schedule. We have an A-B team, and they have a day off. So they'll work a day and they're off a day.
Okay, and when did the 12-hour shift start?
I don't know the exact date. We can get that to you next meeting also.
Did the 12-hour shift start since the last meeting, the last Jail Oversight Board meeting?
Yes.
Okay, and what was the reason for the change in shifts?
We felt that is a better operation for our incarcerated individuals.
To work 12-hour days without pay?
And have a day off, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so they get how many days off a week? You said it's every other day?
They work every other day, ma'am.
Okay, and so that still seems like a shorter shift, though, than was being worked before, right? So before, we had 2 shifts of folks working 7, 8 hours a day, and now they're just doing 12-hour shifts. So are the shifts, is the kitchen operating for fewer hours per day than it was before?
So prior to the 12-hour shifts, when we transition between the morning crew and the afternoon crew, there's a lot of security procedures that have to go into place. So by having the 12-hour shifts, it actually makes the operation of the kitchen more efficient because we're not swapping out and bringing new individuals in and having to do all those measures. So we can be more efficient with a smaller amount of time with our service.
Okay, and what time does a shift start for a kitchen worker?
I do not have that information available for me right now, but we can provide it at the next meeting.
Does anyone know what time all of those workers are leaving their pod to go to the kitchen?
It depends on what the individuals do. We send the folks that are the cooks, so on and so forth. If they have specialized jobs, they go down earlier, then everybody else comes down later. So, like Deptoma described, the same work is getting done, but it's done in a more efficient manner. So, if we have workers come down at a later time, then they'll work through dinner, if that makes sense.
Okay, and what time is dinner? What time does the 12-hour shift end?
We're usually done by 7 p.m., before 8, somewhere in there.
Okay, and what time is breakfast served?
We start, kitchen carts go out the first ones go at around 6 a.m.
Okay, so if somebody has to be there to prepare the 6 a.m. breakfast, they would be there before 6 a.m. And then the kitchen shifts end around 7, 8? That's more than 12 hours. I'm just wondering, so some people start at 6 and are done by 6?
Correct.
Some people start at 5 and are done by 5?
I don't have the breakdown with me, but I'm assuming it's on a rotating basis.
Okay.
As folks go down, they're the first ones that come out.
Sure, and how do you manage the logistics of that, having a bunch of different groups going down for different start times as opposed to just 2 chunks for a.m.
Come
and
off the
p.m.?
same housing unit, so the officers working there have a list of who needs to be down there at what times, and they get them ready and send them down.
Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah, I would very much appreciate when you give us the meal logs for next month. I would like to see an accurate log, and I think it would be helpful for our incarcerated worker initiative as well. What time the shifts are starting, what time they're ending, how long they are, how many people are doing each shift. That would be really, really helpful for us to get our proposal together. I know when the county council office had requested that information a little over a year and a half ago when we started this project of paying incarcerated workers, we were given very vague numbers about the jobs people were doing. It said that everybody was working 7 days a week, 8 hours a day. So if you could give that, that would be super helpful. Also, are incarcerated individuals on these 12-hour shifts, are they still working on Sundays and holidays? Yes, okay. And you understand that is in direct violation of the law? Would it be helpful if I sent you the law where it says that? Okay. And then I will follow up at next meeting to see if you understand it, okay? Okay, thank you very much. The next question I have, I'm super, super concerned about the firing of the medical director, all right? I do not think I am the only person here who is concerned about that. Who is acting as medical director right now?
Currently, it's Dr. Bill John Julio at AHN. And
can you say that name again? I'm sorry.
Bill John Julio. And to clarify, our medical director was not fired.
Okay. I had received reports from staff members who work with Dr. S, and I don't want to say his name because I'll mess it up. Steck Schulte. Thank you. I'm sorry. I've been trying to learn it for a while. But anyways, I had received reports that he was, that he, hold on, let me get it here. That he was called in again. This is a quote from the person that I spoke to, verified by multiple other staff members in medical at the jail. Specified that he was called in by the AHN head and told that Ashley Brinkman said his services were no longer needed. The staff was all shocked and extremely upset. They were completely blindsided by such a drastic and unexpected decision. And then yesterday in a subcommittee meeting, Mr. Pilarski, only after being asked directly about it, said that AHN decided to reassign Steck Schulte. So you are saying that no one at the jail made any indication that his services were no longer needed or wanted, or that you were, quote, going in a different direction?
I cannot discuss personnel matters, especially considering that this is not our employee.
So I do want to comment. And Allegheny Health Network is one of our partners. And we were notified of their intention to reassign Dr. Steck Schulte. Now, we appreciate all the leadership and all the guidance that he provided us for all of these years, but Dr. Steck Schulte is an AHN employee, and we have nothing to do with what AHN does with their employees. But like I said, he was a valuable employee to us, and we appreciate everything that he provided to us. So that's an AHN responsibility, not a jail's responsibility.
So are you saying that if the jail has a reason to discontinue service with a provider that AHN provides to the jail has no say in that whatsoever?
AHN makes all decisions pertaining to AHN employees. And that's all I can say about that issue right there, Ms. Howland.
I'm sorry, I'm not talking about that issue anymore. I mean more generally. If you or someone in the jail administration wants someone who AHN has placed in the jail to no longer be in the jail, do you have authority to tell AHN that you no longer want this specific service provider in the jail?
I think that if we have any issues with any vendor, we would be able to say our piece. I think that's a responsibility of any vendor at our jail, Ms. Howland.
But you ultimately do not have final say over, somebody could continue operating inside the jail after you had repeatedly asked them not to?
But Ms. Hallam, I think the question is whether or not they terminated the doctor or if they asked to have him transferred. And the answer was no. They said they did not do that. It was a decision made by AHN. Do you have another question?
I was looking for an answer to my broader question that if the jail wanted somebody reassigned from the jail, could you make that happen?
Again, Ms. Hallam,
I think your lawyer wants to talk. He keeps trying to stand up.
Because you're getting into personnel matters that should not be discussed in this forum.
So in the AHN contract that they have with the county and with the jail, does it allow any provision for the jail to request the removal of an employee from AHN?
AHN is responsible for making the determination who works and who does not work at our jail, Ms. Hallam.
Okay. I have multiple accounts conflicting that, and the smirk on your face tells me that you know that as well. Next question. So when was the jail notified about Dr. Stesch-Schulte being reassigned?
I learned on Tuesday.
What was that, the 28th? Tuesday? Okay. So did you learn the same day that Dr. Stesch-Schulte learned?
Yes.
Okay. And when was his last day of work?
Yesterday.
Okay. And is there a reason why the Jail Oversight Board was not notified of this change in what I would argue is kind of like the most important position at the jail?
We had a plan. When the decision was made for Dr. Stesch-Schulte, we had a plan, and we just didn't feel that it was an emergent situation to notify the Jail Oversight Board.
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I heard that right. You didn't think it was a situation that the Jail Oversight Board should be notified about, that the medical director was leaving?
We did not. No, I did not, no, ma'am.
And you state that you had a plan. How did you know to develop that plan?
We developed a plan when we found out about it, Ms. Howland.
The same day?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can we see that plan? What you're going to do now that we don't have a...
It's not in writing, ma'am.
Where is it?
It's conversations.
Okay, no documentation whatsoever of a plan for us not having a medical director?
No, ma'am.
Okay, that's a shame, but I appreciate that information very much. Okay, next question. I would agree that we should definitely do an exit interview. So if someone can get that contact information, that's definitely where, when we did it with Ms. Bunce, Dr. Bunce, it was very, very informative, and I think we should do that again. So if anybody wants to take the charge of that. Next question that I have is about, how could I forget? So I have these expert reports that we were all emailed. Did everyone on the jail board see these expert reports that were in your inbox? Did anybody get a chance to look through them? No? Maybe yesterday. So if I could just ask that every member of the jail board please read through these expert reports. They are, I mean, we hear some stuff here, right? But this is beyond anything I've ever seen. And these are by experts in the field of corrections, in the field of mental health, former warden, and what is a doctor, Dr. Cuppers, and Bradford Hansen. He's the former warden. And so this is in regards to a lawsuit that Howard versus Laura Williams. Named defendants in the case are Laura Williams, former Chief Deputy Warden of Healthcare Services, Orlando Harper, Warden of the Allegheny County Jail, Michael Barfield, Mental Health Director, Allegheny County. And so there was a Tribune Review article that was written on Monday. Did anyone on the board get to read this? Jail administration, have you seen this article? No? Okay, I'll fill you in on it. Okay, so this article is titled, "Experts in Lawsuits Say Mental Health Care at Allegheny County Jail is Grossly Inadequate." And again, this is all public information, accessible, because it is part of a pending lawsuit. And so I just want to ask, just some opinions from the administration, anybody who's willing to speak about this. What some of the, quotations from this. So these were filed this month in federal court. They address problems including a shortage in medical staffing, a lack of training for both medical and correctional staff, a lack of privacy for discussions involving mental health concerns, punishment for incarcerated individuals seeking mental health treatment, and continued overuse of solitary confinement, which had been banned through a countywide referendum in 2021. Okay, so those are some of the overarching concerns here. And I just want to, get this into the record and also get some response because it says that the jail's mental health care is shockingly substandard. That is a direct quote from an expert in this case. And again, these are people who have tons of corrections experts, and they're saying that compared to other jails and prisons throughout the nation, that the mental health care at our jail, the one that we have the oversight of, the ones that Ian's run, is shockingly substandard. They also said that the overutilization of use of force in solitary confinement diminishes rather than enhances the success of offenders' reintegration into society. They allege a gross failure on the part of a jail to care for those with mental illness. They say that meaningful mental health treatment is not provided at the jail until symptoms are so acute that the person is imminently suicidal. They say that patients are ignored unless they express suicidal ideation, and if they do express such thoughts, they are mocked, and officers are quick to use force against prisoners with mental illness. They say that most interaction with mental health staff for incarcerated individuals occur at the front of jail cells where there is no privacy. They say that universally, for incarcerated individuals at the Allegheny County Jail, there are long delays, a lack of follow-up, and they can be beaten or tased for even asking to meet with mental health staff. And when I'm reading the expert reports, there's some direct quotations from individuals who have experienced this themselves. They, again, said that staffing is grossly inadequate, and I think we see that by looking at the vacancies. As of the 17th of February, there were 88 vacancies, and only 5 of those are AHN vacancies. 83 of those 88 vacancies for healthcare staffing are county employees. We always talk about the AHN services here, but I want to remind folks that the overwhelming majority of them are county employees, not contracted through AHN. Additionally, they said that there are often, Dr. Brinkman actually said this herself in her deposition, that there are often no psychiatrists at the jail. And also that 75% of the jail's population is prescribed at least one psychotropic medication. So 75% of the people are prescribed at least one psychotropic medication, but that there are often no psychiatrists at the jail at all. Of course, they also said, they talked about, we have brought up over and over and over again about the jail being in violation of the solitary confinement ban. And, a referendum by this board where we said no shotguns in the jail, if you remember that, right? That they stopped using the restraint chair. They were required to stop using the restraint chair, but they have instead replaced it by officers with long guns that loudly shoot rubber or wooden blocks. And their use terrifies incarcerated individuals with mental illness and has other harmful effects. Even though they got rid of the restraint chair, they have replaced it with another practice designed to intimidate. And we're talking about folks with mental health diagnoses, right? Folks that we are constitutionally required to provide health care to. It is not happening. And, this is from some of your own words in your deposition. They also talked about cages so that incarcerated individuals can be moved out of their cell for 4 hours a day, with the jail thinking that that's in compliance with the referendum ban. It is not. An exact quote was systemic and gross deficiencies. The second expert report by a retired warden who spent 42 years working in corrections. Do any of the jail administration have 42 years experience in corrections? Okay, so then this is our expert on the matter, right? He concluded that there was a pattern of policy violations and failure to protect people held in the jail, a failure to train staff in alternative to use of force, and evidence that jail staff used force against mentally ill inmates, placing them in segregated confinement against national standards. He notes that these violations were based on systemic and gross deficiencies, which should have been obvious to any jail administrator. He also was pretty critical of Warden Harper in here. He says that Warden Harper's lack of understanding of the use of force policy, which includes the restraint chair, is alarming. This is coming from a guy with 42 years in experience in jail administration. He wrote that in a deposition, which Warden Harper and a trading sergeant gave, that an incarcerated individual could be placed in the restraint chair if they simply refused a direct order. He says that this completely violates policy on the use of force of restraint chairs and national standard. And also, again, I just want to remind folks that this is the Allegheny County Jail. We're not just talking broadly about jails. This is our jail. Our use of force was higher than any other jail in the state. So, you know, hearing that, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody who hadn't had an opportunity to read it now knows about it. I have it here if anybody wants me to pass it around. Controller O'Connor, do you want to say something about it?
Just to clarify, that's the doctor, that's the California doctor, is that correct? Because we already reached out to the individual. That's a different report? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, sure. Which one are you talking about?
Dr. Craig.
Where is he from? Like, where did you find him?
California, Haney. We actually reached out to him. He's the psychological center. I thought that's who you were quoting in there, but
no,
different doctor that,
different
that we've
doctor.
already contacted about that. Yeah.
Yeah, these are from the expert reports that were sent to us yesterday from Howard versus Laura Williams, a case in the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Pennsylvania. So again, those are in our emails. I implore everyone on this board to read them ahead of the next meeting so that we can have a more thorough discussion about them. This is very, very concerning. And so, you know, specifically, I'm just wondering if the jail has any comment on the statements that were in here, and what you can tell us if any of these things have changed since the deposition.
Let me try to make sure we understand what you just did. You are quoting an expert that represents one party in a lawsuit and their opinions about the jail, and asking the other party to respond who is in litigation. That's what you're asking them to do.
The only person who is sitting here from the jail administration who is currently in litigation is Warden Orlando Harper. There are 3 other jail administrators here.
The jail is in litigation.
I understand.
And you are quoting the expert for the other party as if everything in that report is factually true.
I am not alleging everything is factually true.
I didn't interrupt you.
Go ahead.
Finish. You're quoting an expert for a party in a lawsuit and asking the defendant to comment on a report while litigation is pending.
I am
extremely inappropriate. I'm encouraging you not to answer. They shouldn't answer. They're in the middle of a trial. And of course, one party's expert's going to say things just like their expert's going to say other things. So I ask, do you have another question that does not revolve around that report or the litigation that is currently ongoing? What else do you want to add?
Yeah, sure. So I'm actually quoting directly from a Trib Live article is what I'm
regarding litigation.
Correct.
An expert who gave an expert report and opinion in litigation. What's your next question?
Correct. My next question is if the jail has done anything over the past year to remedy gross deficiencies regarding mental health treatment.
Dealing with litigation and an expert opinion in litigation, they cannot respond to that question, and you know that. Next question.
I just thought it was fair to give both sides an opportunity to talk about it. Okay. My next question is about, sorry, I'm losing my place here. Oh, just if the jail oversight board could get notification when the jail administration receives notification that a lawsuit is filed against the jail, if the jail oversight board could please be made aware of that litigation, because we don't hear about it. I'm like hunting.
Public record. It's public record.
Right, but as we have noted in previous meetings, such as when Allegheny County Health Department inspections are conducted and other things that are also public record, that instead of us having to monitor legal databases for lawsuits, that we be made aware of them.
You actually got an expert opinion from a lawsuit that was pending that was public record.
Yes.
Now you're saying that you don't know about the report.
Because I was made aware of it through an email that was sent to the entire board. That's how I found out about it. I would just like us going forward, before the news hears about it, we've brought this up many times, if we could please hear about it.
Okay.
I would appreciate that. So is that something that you guys would be able to do, or is there another entity in the county who could make us aware anytime litigation was filed against the county jail?
That would be the law department if we get notice of that. And we don't always know before the paper has done that.
But a quote was given actually from the jail to this paper, that I just read from. Yeah, so jail spokesman Jesse, Gallanese said he could not comment, but in a written statement, addressed the issue of mental health treatment in correctional systems.
You asked about whether these lawsuits, whether you could be advised of lawsuits, do lawsuits.
Right, so the spokesman for the
Not the jail wouldn't do that. That's not the jail.
Okay, that was my question. Who can advise us when litigation is filed against the jail, since we are the Oversight Board?
It's public record.
Okay, who would be the entity in the county that I can submit that request to keep the board informed of these things going on? Because my understanding is if a lawsuit is settled or if some sort of damages are paid out, it's taxpayers of Allegheny County who are paying those lawsuits, correct? Who pays out lawsuits against the jail? County taxpayers. So we are the Jail Oversight Board. I'm just wondering why you think we do not need to be made aware of lawsuits that have the potential for paying out taxpayer money. Okay, so who is the person that I should request this from?
You can request it.
From?
You can request it from the law department or anyone else.
From the county's law department. Okay, so just to clarify one more time, does the jail have a law department or a solicitor or anything like that separate from the general county legal department? No, okay, so they are one and the same. The jail's legal team and the county's legal team are one and the same.
No. The jail doesn't have a legal department. The county has it.
Okay, and the county's legal department handles all jail-related things. Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. That's all the questions I have.
Any additional questions? Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Klein.
Can you talk about if there are any standards for permissible tattoos for corrections officers?
Great question.
In relation to the public testimony that we heard about offensive tattoos.
I don't know if there's any written standards, but to me, if I saw a tattoo that was inappropriate, you know what, we would talk about the inappropriate tattoo, consult with our law department to see if there's anything that we can do. But we don't have any standardized standards that we utilize.
Terry, if I can, there was a similar situation. I worked at a medical examiner's office. Somebody had an inappropriate tattoo. They got it. Obviously, they can do what they want there, but we required them to wear long sleeves year-round, so they couldn't go into someone else's house with the tattoo they had, which people might find offensive when you were picking up their loved ones or something like that. It was an investigator, somebody who would go into homes. So we made them wear long, after consulting with the law department on what to do, obviously, we made them wear long sleeves year-round, so the tattoo was always covered. I mean, that's somewhat of a similar situation. So again, more like the word today, I've talked to the law department. That happened for us. We discussed with the law department and just came up with the policy. That person would always have to wear long sleeves to cover the tattoo while at work.
Any additional questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
So is long sleeves to cover tattoos the policy of the jail?
Like I said, I would have to know about it first, or my team would have to know about it, and we would consult with the law department to come up with the plan as to how to deal with that.
Again, in our case, the tattoo was on like the upper arm that would show if it was short sleeve, so it was easily rectifiable with long sleeves. I don't know, obviously that tattoo is hideous if somebody puts it on their body, but that's just my opinion. But depending on where it was, if it was on a hand, maybe there's a lot of purpose that we have to wear gloves. I don't know. I mean, depending on where it was at. In the particular case I'm speaking of, it was on the biceps and down through the arm. You could see it was inappropriate, so it was easy to say, they had to wear long sleeves all the time, a cover tattoo while at work at all times. I don't know if that would be something here. Again, he'd have to consult with the law department, but that was something, a similar situation, and that's how we rectified it.
I think it would be helpful to get an opinion from the law department about what a response would be to a tattoo.
I can probably help with this one. So as reprehensible as that tattoo would be, the one that was previously mentioned about the noose, reprehensible. But every person, even that person, has a First Amendment right to freedom of speech. And so they're permitted to wear whatever they want on their body. You cannot terminate a person because they choose to put an inappropriate tattoo on their body. You cannot terminate them for that. The only thing you can do is require them to cover it up.
Exactly.
If you terminate them for that, you violate their constitutional rights. You can't do that.
But could it be some kind of requirement more than a long sleeve, like an
Absolutely.
ACE wrap?
Band-Aid or cover it up.
So that-
Absolutely. That could be required, but you can't require them to leave the employment because of a tattoo. Not based on my understanding of the Constitution, no.
I have a question. Was anyone in the jail administration aware of the tattoo in reference before the public comment tonight?
No.
No. Have you ever received reports in the past about inappropriate tattoos on jail staff?
No.
Never. Okay. And then I just had one more question that I thought about regarding induction for MOUD. Didn't you tell us a couple months ago there was a person who was hired specifically to be like the induction person?
I said that we hired an addiction specialist. It's not limited to just induction.
Okay, that's the person, I forget her name, you had told her the name that you gave us a couple months ago? Okay, she wasn't hired to assist with the implementation of MOUD induction?
She can assist with that, but that's one aspect of addictions treatment in the facility.
Okay, I would love to talk to her if you could bring her here for the next meeting. That'd be great. So just so we can have somebody here who can actually give us information about that process. So thank you very much for that, and that is all my questions.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.